2021, the Year in Review, an exclusive presentation from NBC5 News, is sponsored by Pressure Point Roofing, the Cow Creek Umpqua Tribe, Medford Mattress, and Lippard's Carpet One.
Good evening and welcome to a special edition of NBC5 News. I'm Craig Smolin.
And I'm Anna Weeks. Tonight we're looking back on 2021 and the stories that made headlines here in Southern Oregon and Northern California.
This year, each and every one of you have shown incredible strength in the face of this pandemic.
It hasn't been easy for any of us, but the way we've rebuilt our community in the wake of the deadly Alameda fire and weathered this pandemic has been nothing short of inspiring. Well,
work still remains. The progress we've made has been incredible to see. Here's NBC5's Grace Smith with a look back.
After the devastation of the Alameda fire, 2021 was a year of remembrance and rebuilding. Extensive cleanup on burn sites started early this year and are still moving along.
For several months, we've had to drive through and look at this, and it's a reminder of what happened. Getting this cleaned up is a major step of getting past that.
According to Oregon Office of Emergency Management, almost 99% of home sites have been cleared. Some are even incredibly already complete.
By golly, this was our home, and we wanted to have it back.
As the long recovery continues, the Alameda Fire After Action Report was released in June by an agency Jackson County commissioned. The report says the County Emergency Operations Center had trouble getting timely and accurate situational awareness and evacuation information, which impacted its ability to send out detailed public alerts. It says this was due to the speed and intensity of the dangerous fire, making radio traffic and field reports conflicting and unclear from the many agencies involved.
It changed and moved so quickly.
At the time, it commended the heroic actions of first responders. Recovery also means returns, like Phoenixtown students returning to the classroom early in the year and among the first in the state to be back on campus.
There's none of the trying to figure out how it's going to work if your house burned down. You know, you can just come to school and learn.
Rebuilding led state agencies and nonprofits to create brand new turnkey facilities. Renovated hotels turned into housing for struggling Southern Oregonians.
This gives us a chance to actually provide people with the support they need to get back on their feet, and I think that's an incredible contribution to the community.
At the rebuilt Magnolia Gardens apartments in Talent, some returned home. Fire survivor Melissa Brown was getting ready to move in the day the fire swept through town. Nearly a year later, in July, she got her chance.
It's a haven for those of us who were just lost. I've spent 9.5 months trying to find a place to live.
Survivors work to support and inspire each other, no matter their age. 102-year-old Ashland man Al Weiss survived 2 pandemics and 2 wars as a soldier. After evacuating during the Alameda fire, we learned he's valuing every step he takes around his neighborhood.
Good afternoon.
Business owners continued rebuilding with the help of the community. Some received extra help, like grants from United Rotary, which distributed grants to over 150 local businesses.
We had Rotarians going around talking to folks about what it would take to get 100% back in business, and then the money kept coming in.
We were lucky enough to find stories of even the smallest miracles, like the return of a stolen statue that survived the fire.
When we come back to see our house, is the first thing we notice is still here.
But as Southern Oregon rebuilt this year, another intense fire season came in 2021. Fire tore through the Galice Resort in June, and we just learned the cause is undetermined.
I would say the building is at a total loss.
They hope to rebuild after receiving major community support through online fundraising. Valhalla Organic suffered twice in recent years, first losing a home to the Alameda fire in 2020, and then watching the Cutoff fire destroy their Bonanza farm where they had just moved their operations.
Everything that was here is gone. So the entire property burned to the ground again.
The Bootleg Fire, at the time the biggest wildfire in the country, tore through Klamath and Lake County, leaving cattle ranchers to battle flames alongside firefighters. Michael Mastagni took NBC5 News behind the dramatic fire lines.
They didn't just step to the plate. They leapt over the plate, went above and beyond the call of duty.
Even as fires in Oregon and Northern California burned miles away from the Rogue Valley, we still felt the effects, at one point having the nation's worst air quality.
Our air monitoring stations were measuring higher concentrations of the pollutant PM2.5 than we'd seen at all historically.
A situation we can only hope doesn't continue in 2022. Grace Smith, NBC5 News.
Over the past year, we covered dozens of stories you won't see anywhere else. Some of them you saw moments ago in the Alameda fire coverage.
NBC5's Katie Stride shows us some other hard news stories and some feel-good ones that you saw only on NBC5 News.
Only on NBC5.
Only on NBC5.
And only on NBC5 News tonight, a local family making a horrifying discovery. Jackson County Fire District 3 says it cleared the scene of an RV fire this month without discovering a body in the remains.
We were told 3 different times that there was no one in the building.
A White City family found their loved one in the debris.
They have policies and procedures they should have followed.
Now Fire District 3 Chief Bob Horton says the agency has completed a full internal report so something like this doesn't happen again.
Have to strive to be better, not to be primed by information that may lead us astray.
Only NBC5 was there when Grants Pass High School students walked out of school this fall after the school board reversed its decision to fire a pair of controversial educators for breaking district policy.
The superintendent wanted Katie and Rachel to shut up.
I'm terminated. They still have a lawsuit pending against the district, but it was their controversial opinions on LGBTQ+ legislation and the district bringing them back that brought the students to the street.
We wanted to give these students that felt like they didn't have a voice and they didn't feel safe in the school, you wanted them to feel this support. And if they're coming out here being surrounded by hundreds of other students, I really think people are coming out of this with a positive mentality.
But 2021 didn't just bring serious stories. NBC5 even took you out on the road to find inspiring stories of heroism.
We were joking about something and all of a sudden I heard Doug go, and I looked over and he was gone.
California woman Janice Bonham took the wheel from her husband Doug after he had a medical event while driving on I-5 near Ashland.
Just as I was turning to go to the front of the car where he was, up comes this big truck with this angel sitting inside.
Thankfully, ODOT driver and former volunteer firefighter Bobby James came to the rescue.
Checked for a pulse and just started CPR. All the patients I've come across, this has certainly been one of the most emotional experiences for me.
Back in July, employees at DNS Harley-Davidson turned us on to something they've never seen before. A 94-year-old World War II veteran purchasing a new Harley for himself.
He looked at me and said, I think when you're 94 years old, you should ride whatever you want.
If that story doesn't bring a smile to your face, this one sure will. Table Rock Elementary crossing guard Mario Arenas became famous for his funny outfits and his bubbly personality.
I've always loved working with kids, so it's sort of a dream job if you call it a job.
Shortly after he began, everyone started quickly noticing.
I have such a positive greeter on the corner, not just in crosswalk duty, but really welcoming our Tiger community. The school has been wonderful.
A number of our local stories went viral this year.
It's been 10 months, but who could forget the Holy Donut War?
The battle erupted earlier this year between what was then called Holy Donuts Cafe in Klamath Falls and the Holy Donut in Portland, Maine. The Northeast company spells its name the religious way and had its name trademarked several different ways, including like a hole in a donut. Early this year, after their holy feud grabbed headlines across much of the country, Klamath County couple Michelle and Chris Newton agreed to change their business's name and move on. And Rogue Valley residents saw a strange object in the sky one night in March. Now, many of you called in with your theories, and yes, a fair number thought it might have been a UFO or a plane crash, but it was actually burning debris from SpaceX's Falcon 9. Experts say the streaking light came from a rocket as it re-entered Earth's atmosphere.
A pear farm in Talent going out of business after 111 years. Meyer Orchards has been around since 1910. The owners told us in September they're in the process of shutting down. Increased labor costs, government compliance, and severe drought led to the decision.
And coming up on NBC5's Year in Review special, did we mention we spent this entire year in a global pandemic?
How our region weathered the ups and downs of COVID-19 this year when we come back. Welcome back to the NBC5 Year in Review special.
Through the entire year of the global pandemic, our community adapted, made their voices heard, and were resilient in unprecedented times.
Yeah, as we enter 2022, we're taking a look back at where we were and how far we've come. NBC5's Madison LaBerge takes us through a wild year.
January
January 1st, 2021. Oregon counties eagerly wait to see what risk category they're placed in every 2 weeks. Jackson, Josephine, and Klamath counties all spent a lot of time in extreme risk, so places like restaurants and gyms could only operate outdoors. Then, a ray of hope. Vaccinations for first responders begin in January.
Sante and Providence Medical Centers received the first priority doses. So at that point, we knew, okay, we're going to be close here.
Then Jackson County opened the gates to its first drive-through clinic at the Expo, where the work continues today.
Great first day of getting our community vaccinated and hopefully getting our community back to reopening.
The Expo has so far vaccinated tens of thousands of Southern Oregonians. While COVID-19 evolved and mutated, community sentiment ultimately remained the same.
I'm really desperate for life to get back to normal, so whatever it takes to get back to normal.
Also ready for things to go back to normal? The Brit Festival and Oregon Shakespeare Festival. The Oregon Shakespeare Festival began requiring negative COVID tests or proof of your vaccination status. The Brit followed these guidelines as well. After parents rallied to get students back in person, kids returned to school.
I'm grateful to be back at class.
But returning to school wasn't enough. Frustrated by COVID restrictions, many protested, rallied, and marched to make their voices heard. No more masks! No more masks! At the end of the summer, the Oregon Army National Guard moved in to help hospitals overwhelmed by the Delta variant in Jackson and Josephine counties.
On a minute's notice, we're activated to serve the communities that we live in.
Despite hundreds of local residents dying of COVID complications throughout the pandemic, including over 360 in Jackson County, over 230 in Josephine County, and over 150 in Klamath County, there are still lots of vaccine hesitancy. Hundreds of doctors from across Jackson County even signed a letter to the community in an effort to reinforce people's trust in them and the medical community. But the rallying cries for change continued through the October 18th vaccination deadline for healthcare workers and educators.
Bittersweet. I mean, it's good that you see people out here supporting one another, but because of the cause, it's sad that these people are losing their jobs.
But with all the divisiveness 2021 brought, the community showed time and time again it rallies behind its own. After battling COVID for 7 months in the hospital, a Rogue Valley man beat the virus.
Gracias, Dios mío, que regresé a mi hogar.
He said, thanks God that I'm back in my home.
He spent 3 months in a coma, 4 months in the ICU, and credits his support system for everything. In Medford, Madison LaBerge, NBC5 News.
While there were some stories that were tough to share this year, NBC5 News also brought you hundreds of stories that put a smile on your face. NBC5's Jenna King shares some of those uplifting moments of the year that might have you saying, "Aw."
Oh, wow.
2021 showcased many positive moments like this one in Southern Oregon and Northern California. Medford native and St. Mary's grad Dylan Wu made his debut at the U.S. Open in June. He finished the Open tied for 31st, and in the months to follow, earned his PGA Tour card.
Overall, really content with how I played in the first U.S. Open. I mean, we're playing against the best players in the world and beat a lot of pros that I grew up watching that are really, really good players.
In 2021, we brought you stories that also showed your generosity.
To see the vision of having a cancer center that would even make that care even better to Southern Oregon, Northern California, the coast and such. I mean, that really prompted Mary and I to do something to help.
Asante's Cancer Treatment Center now has a new name after a $5 million donation from Dick Hyman and his wife Mary. They donated the money to help treat cancer patients and others through Asante's Southern Oregon locations.
When we see that number of 12,000, we know that it's not just going for research and treatment, but it's going for completely supporting the family through that time. It does feel really good just to know that we're making that big of an impact and that we're reaching that many people.
2 Rogue Valley teenagers, Brooke and Lily Atkins, who called themselves the Fudge Girls, raised over $12,000 for St. Jude Children's Hospital over the years. The Fudge Girls weren't the only ones baking for a cause. Only NBC5 News brought you the story of a mom and son in Rogue River baking their way through autism. Rebecca DeGreat says she and her 15-year-old son, Alexander, have always loved baking together. Their new business, Mom and Sons, started up in August. And if their success continues, they're considering opening up a storefront in Rogue River.
He likes it because he gets to create things, and I like it because I get to spend time with him.
It was also a year of community collaborations.
A local nonprofit and the Medford Police Department helped one man go from homeless to his very own apartment. With help from Rogue Retreat and a grant from Providence, Chris Franklin worked his way toward independence.
I was there at a hotel, then they got me into Kelly Shelter, then I got me in here, and now I got going to get in my own place.
Who could forget a Medford brother and sister trying to take our jobs? Young journalists Juliet and Silas Preen created a YouTube channel sharing news and weather. One of their most famous interviews is a producer from NBC's Dateline, who lives right here in the Rogue Valley.
I'm born ready.
The YouTube show shares everything you'd see in a normal newscast. Silas is behind the camera mostly. Juliet's dream is weather.
To be a meteorologist, a morning meteorologist preferably.
The duo is also now official, with their own NBC5 hat, reporter notebook, and pen.
I feel like I won $1 million.
Love it, Jenna. Thank you. Still to come on our year in review, Oregon's newest U.S. congressman locked in his office his first week on the job.
But Representative Cliff Bentz saw the day of the U.S. Capitol riot when we return.
Welcome back to our NBC5 2021 year in review special. I'm Craig Smullen.
And I'm Anna Weeks. One local story we've been following for years now is far from over. That's the death of original Disney Mouseketeer Dennis Day. The
Phoenix man was found dead in his home months after he disappeared back in 2018. Prosecutors said handyman Daniel Berta, who was living with Day at the time he went missing, shoved the elderly man to the ground and let Day die by not taking other actions to prevent it. But much of the evidence was deemed inadmissible, so the criminal case has gone nowhere. Day's sister in California filed a $2 million civil lawsuit against Phoenix police this spring. The police department's attorneys say the suit's claims are deficient. And early this month, a fatal plane crash occurred at a car dealership near Medford's airport. Police say 2 people died, 69-year-old pilot Donald Sefton and the passenger, 67-year-old Valerie Serpa, both from Fallon, Nevada. The NTSB is investigating what caused the private plane to crash on Sunday, December 5th. It says it could take 12 to 24 months to complete the full report.
We've seen human trafficking, labor trafficking. We've seen workers who have been harassed, threatened, assaulted.
Illegal marijuana becoming a bigger issue than ever in Southern Oregon this year, according to local law enforcement. So much so that local county leaders are looking for both federal and state help to tackle the problem, with the state contributing millions at this month's special session. And the city of Medford officially approved a controversial change to its existing camping rules in the spring. It upset some local homeless activists. Now it's a misdemeanor if someone is found sleeping along the Greenway or Prescott Park during fire season. Other times of the year, it's allowed if they don't have a tent or a campfire. And Oregon Tech became the first public college in Oregon history to have its faculty go on strike this spring. The faculty voted that it had no confidence in school president Nagi Naganathan prior to striking. The two sides were fighting over pay, benefits, and the faculty's workload. After about a year and a half of negotiations and a more than week-long strike, the Oregon Tech faculty and administration reached an agreement in early May on a new 5-year contract.
The violent storming of the U.S. Capitol this year stunned the nation. It happened in early January. It also happened to be during Oregon U.S. Congressman Cliff Bentz's first week on the job. Congressman Bentz was not on the House floor as a COVID-19 precaution when it all happened. He told us he and his team were watching the situation unfold like everyone else, but from their office. Bentz talked to NBC5 News that day about the wild scene.
To break down barricades and force their way into the Capitol and put people in fear for their lives and their safety, and that's just not right.
Bentz complimented the Capitol Police for doing their very best to keep people safe, but said at the time they were simply overwhelmed by the throngs of people.
Oregon picked up another U.S. House seat when the census was completed earlier this year. That set up months of back and forth this summer and fall over the once-a-decade redistricting process. Lawmakers approved the new maps for Oregon's U.S. House seats and legislative districts for the state House and Senate in September. That's after House Speaker Tina Kotek backed out of a deal granting Republicans an equal say in the state's redistricting process. She claimed they didn't sincerely negotiate and were obstructing the process. In the end, nonpartisan websites say Democrats will likely hold the advantage in the U.S. congressional district. Just last month, the state Supreme Court threw out a legal challenge after Republicans accused Democrats of gerrymandering or stacking the legislative districts in their favor.
This year, we lost many people who touched our lives, among them a Rogue Valley radio legend who passed away early this year after a long battle with cancer. Former Q100.3 broadcaster Larry Neal passed away in January. In 2017, Neal retired from radio to focus on treating the disease. He was one of the first voices on Q100.3 back in 1980 and helped the station raise money for nonprofits to fight childhood cancer. Neal was 66 years old. And the former longtime owner of S&B James Construction and design firm Sam James recently passed away. James was a fixture in the Rogue Valley's business scene for decades and a huge community advocate. Though he sold it years ago, S&B James is now one of the area's largest firms and has even expanded to Sacramento.
Legendary former Southern Oregon State College football coach Chuck Mills passed away this year. Coach Mills was the school's football coach from 1980 to 88. He also served as athletic director before the school changed its name to SOU. His accomplishments earned him a place in the school's Hall of Fame. Ashland was one of 7 collegiate stops in a coaching career that spanned 4 decades, including a stint in the NFL. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. As we put a bow on 2021, we're looking ahead to an exciting 2022.
The action kicks off right here on NBC5 in just a couple of weeks with the Winter Olympics. The Beijing Games start the first week of February with the opening ceremonies here on NBC5 on Friday, February 4th. Never before have we seen the Summer and Winter Games run back to back like this. But in a global pandemic, we're all used to things being done a little different these days. And right smack in the middle of the games, the 2022 Super Bowl. It'll also be here on NBC5 on Sunday, February 13th. The 56th Super Bowl will be played at the spectacular new SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California.
2022 promises to be another huge year in Oregon politics. Voters will choose who becomes the state's next governor. Governor Kate Brown's time in office ends at the end of 2022, and there's already dozens fighting to win her seat. Congressman Peter DeFazio will retire at the end of 2022 after 36 years of public service, Oregon's longest run in the U.S. House. As chair of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, his role in Democrats' infrastructure plans this year have been instrumental in the party's policies. The fight to succeed him in Oregon's now larger 4th district is only just beginning.
As we reflect on 2021, we want to say thank you to all of you who invite us into your home every single night.
It's an honor and a privilege, and we take that responsibility seriously.
We hope 2022 is a happy and healthy one. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night.
2021, the Year in Review, an exclusive presentation from NBC5 News, was sponsored by Pressure Point Roofing, Cow Creek Umpqua Tribe, Medford Mattress, and Lippard's Carpet One.